Throughout the Game of Thrones series, in fact, from the very first scene, the White Walkers are an ancient threat bubbling just beyond the purview of the relatively trivial power struggle between the high houses of Westeros. They are the most mystical component of the story. Even dragons are less mystical than an army of the dead led by an intelligent evil ancestor. But what if the White Walkers are not evil? What if the Night King is actually the hero that ties the whole series together? In the end, the Night King is revealed to be the singular White Walker threat. Yes, there is an entire army of scarily athletic corpses, the Whites, but they are just pawns. Even the other White Walkers are merely middle management compared to our hero. The Night King calls the shots, and when the Night King dies, the entire army dies. Given how powerful he is, could there be a deeper character arc? Could it be this demigod was just pulling the strings for a would-be hero like Jon Snow? Could it be that he was merely acting as evil as he looked to influence a series of events that led to a sustainable Westeros? To empathize with the Night King and his potential sacrifice, we need to understand his birth, his life, and his death. First of all, his birth. In the HBO TV series, the Children of the Forest reveal to Bran they created the Night King as a weapon against the first men who were cutting down their sacred trees. The Children of the Forest did this by capturing a man and stabbing him with a dragonglass dagger through the heart.
We were being slaughtered. Our sacred trees cut down. We needed to defend ourselves.
From whom?
From you. From men.
This is all that is said in the show, and it's intentionally ambiguous. It's also not made as a big reveal at the end of an episode, but sandwiched in the beginning of the episode, the door, in which Hodor sacrifices himself by holding the door, which might be the most emotional part of the entire series. My point is, the origin of the Night King is a really important moment that the showrunners glossed over. This lackluster reveal sets up the incredibly disappointing conclusion to the White Walker storyline. I think George R.R. Martin led the showrunners down this path and set them up for disaster because he has something else in store for the books. In the novels and the 2014 companion book, The World of Ice and Fire, Martin establishes that, millennia before the events of his series, the Children of the Forest and the First Men were at odds. This changed by the emergence of the Others, the White Walkers, who inflicted a night that lasted a generation and a winter that lasted decades. The Children and the First Men made the Pact, and together drove the White Walkers back north. The Children and Bran the Builder then raised the wall so it wouldn't happen again. The discrepancy between the show and books concerning the Night King's origin story is fertile ground to improve what Season 8 botched. To reconcile the discrepancy, the running theory states the children did create the Night King, but, like an experiment gone wrong, the children's creation backfired and turned against them. I take two issues with this. First of all, if the children and the First Men battled together to drive the walkers north of where the wall was built, why would the children also go north of the wall? There are weirwoods all over Westeros. Why would the children go to the exact place their enemy was relegated to? Secondly, I take even more issue with the fact that the First Men and the Children of the Forest drove the Others back. This is early times. Populations of men and children of the forest weren't the numbers of current Westeros. Technology wasn't as good as current Westeros. There's no mention of dragon help. And you're telling me they drove back the same entity that gobbled an entire horde of Dothraki in a matter of seconds? I mean, nothing is driving this back. Consider the Northern lore is told by man to man, and therefore is biased to make man look heroic. 8,000 years of translation can definitely forget some main details. Maybe the pact existed, but men betrayed the children. Maybe men did nothing heroic, and the walkers simply retreated. At this point, the whole thing is shrouded in myth. The old gods aren't widely followed because their story is weak. So if the First Men didn't drive the White Walkers back, what happened? There are two options. 1. A hero like Bran the Builder used a dragon glass dagger to kill their version of the Night King only when the Night King was ready to be killed, which we now know is a quick way to kill the entire army. Or 2. The Night King decided to recede, by choice bringing his army north to hibernate, having completed his intentional task. Both options have the Night King deciding when his fight was over. There is no reason for the Night King to put himself in harm's way. His army takes blind commands, is overpowered, and only gets stronger as casualties pile up. So what is the Night King's actual intention? Let's assume he indeed was made by the children of the forest in response to the first men cutting down trees. This is a classic trope of nature versus man's industrial complex. Mankind extends himself via technology and nature pays the price. The Night King is a man infused with a magical purpose to stop man's technological and industrial progress. Who's to say the Night King doesn't still think like a man, remember man warring with nature, and aim to reduce the industrialization of Westeros? Why would his mission change? It sure looks like there's critical thinking going on behind those eyes. Plus, the timing for his emergence makes sense. Westeros, under the recent Targaryen dynasty, had an accelerated pace of industrialization. Many feudal static houses united into a dynamic realm connected by roads, ravens, maesters, trade, immigration, a shared culture and technology. The Night King either sensed or was summoned by nature herself to stop mankind advancing into industrial oblivion. He needed to cool down this hot progress as he did thousands of years earlier. The Night King's life doesn't really scream of an evil doer. His actions throughout the series consist of sending spiral messages of his army's existence, the Whites killing unimportant characters like Theon and this woman, and posing as a natural threat, aka Winter.
But winter is coming.
At Hardhome, he seems to make genuine eye contact with Jon, potentially recognizing him as a descendant of Bran the Builder, as if to tell him to step up and take charge of spreading the message south. Given the Night King controls the Whites, he easily could have directed them to merely scare Jon but not kill him, as Jon is the ideal human mouthpiece to spread the Night King's message. That message is ultimately one of nature, that nature is real, it is embodied, and it will fight back when threatened. Many people, including myself, were genuinely upset when the Night King died in such an anti-climactic way. You've got 8 seasons of threatening build-up and then poof, just as he was born of a dragonglass dagger through the heart at the hand of a girl, he was killed. The reason why this was so disappointing is because the imbalance of power was so stark, pun intended. He was too powerful to go down like that. Arya's storyline is for house vengeance, not to save Westeros. If Arya killed the Night King, then the Night King wanted it to happen. The Night King's whole goal was to slow man's progress down, not to kill him entirely. Just as he was willingly killed or retreated 8,000 years ago, so it goes with this emergence as well. Bran, as the semi-omniscient three-eyed raven, says the Night King is seeking an endless night.
An endless night?
But by this point in the TV series, the story was spiraling. I believe Martin in his remaining novels will give the Night King more depth. I think Martin is going to have the children of the forest reveal to Bran what's revealed in the show, that they made the Night King. Bran might then see the first men break the pact and betray the children, indicating that Northern lore doesn't have the whole story. The White Walkers will get past the wall in similar dragon style, but this time get further than Winterfell. The Night King's work simply is too grand of a mission for Winterfell, the edge of civilization, to be where his march ends. The main battle will be at King's Landing, when all hope seems lost for man as such a large population is converted to the White Army. The Night King, Daenerys and Jon will meet. Daenerys might sacrifice herself to save Jon, marking the end of the wheel that needed to be broken. Jon and the Night King will have a private showdown. As the Night King asserts his utter dominance, he will speak to Jon and reveal his mission to stop man's destructive industrialization. He will tell Jon he is to kill him with the Valyrian steel dagger. Even though Jon doesn't want to, he will become king to honor the promise he made to the Night King. It makes sense for the Targaryen line to continue with Jon, and for maybe one dragon to survive, but fly off as is done in the show. This ending ties together millennia of history by seeing Jon on the throne to carry forward the Night King's legendary purpose. This is the grand theme deserving of such a grand story. It's one of the tropes that made Lord of the Rings a timeless classic. Mordor represents industrialization, and the Shire represents a sustainable connection to nature. In the end, the Shire wins. Good defeats evil. For Game of Thrones to end with anything less would be tragic. The TV series ending was trash because instead of good defeating evil, a shadow of democracy defeated feudal monarchy. I mean, our actual history had that plot and is way more gripping. If we wanted a social studies class, we would have watched the History Channel, not HBO.
Yes, Your Grace. Suitable prospects will be brought to you for an audience in the coming weeks.